r/AskReddit. When did your something is very wrong here gut instinct turn out to be right? Driving with a friend of mine through a pretty remote forest road. Couple of guys in the middle of nowhere tried flagging us down. I almost stopped for them before an alarm went off in my head and I stepped on the gas. My friend started saying what the foo. And at the same time there was a shot and a bullet hit the back of the car. We made it to a police station. Turns out there had been a bunch of people and vehicles going missing in the area that same week. I live in Egypt. General rule is if someone tries to force you to stop, especially in a remote area, run them over. My friend asked me if I wanted to go out to the woods with him and explore abandoned places. He even specifically mentioned that he'll bring a firearm to keep us safe. My alarm bells were fucking ringing. I asked him a couple questions, I don't know what, but concluded that it was sketchy as fuck. My gut told me not to go, so I exited from the conversation while he went asking others the same question. Fast forward a couple years, I heard that he was in prison. I was stunned, but remembered the memory when he asked me if I wanted to go into the woods. Turns out he took a freshman, him being senior at that time, and kept his promise of looking for abandoned places. He found a cabin in the woods, brought his friend inside, and as soon as his friend turned his back, bam! Knocked dead. He shot him in the back of the head. I reminisce on this quite often and think, what if I had agreed? Every time I think of this I'm very grateful I'm alive. I had a bad allergy season which turned into a bad sinus infection which turned into bronchitis. It wasn't getting any better, so I got into a GP. He said it could be bronchitis or something worse, he couldn't call it. As much as I hate hospitals, my gut was screeching at me that something was wrong. Went to ER just in case. I had multiple pulmonary embolisms. 1 in 3 people with one undiagnosed P don't make it to the ER. The doc said my lungs glowed in the CAT scan. On the upside, I have a strong heart, so I have that going for me. If you think something is wrong, if you have that creeping, crawling sense of doom, panic, unease, and fear that settled on the back of your mind like a large spider, listen to it. I had a bad feeling about my aunt's boyfriend. Told my mom he seemed creepy and I didn't want to stay the night there anymore. I got a bit of a lecture for calling him creepy, but she made sure I was never around him alone. And good thing, he turned out to be a child molester who is currently in jail for his involvement in a kiddie porn ring. I feel like people should be more inclined to take their kids seriously, especially if the kid is scared or finds someone threatening or creepy. No, they might not just be being silly, perhaps they're more attuned to recognizing safe versus unsafe people. I'm a type 1 diabetic. I began noticing that my kid was having a tough time potty training. He was drinking a lot and peeing a lot. I spoke with his ped about it and she dismissed it, saying we live in a warm area and toddlers are likely to drink more, and therefore pee more, and that I shouldn't hear hoofbeats and assume zebras. He had no other symptoms whatsoever, happy healthy looking little dude. I tried to calm myself down, but I just knew something wasn't right. Finally I took one of his massively full pull-ups and used a keto strip to check his urine, and then proceeded to head right to the hospital. He was diagnosed in November 2015. Got him a new pediatrician immediately. The "you shouldn't hear hoofbeats and assume zebras" analogy is supposed to mean that you should test for more common conditions before you attribute symptoms to rare conditions. It's not hard to run a glucose test, and type 1 diabetes is somewhat common, so that ped was off mark. Laid eyes on my sister's then boyfriend and instantly hated him. I then noticed one of our dogs acted out of character around him, which made me hate him even more. We found out a year later the boyfriend had been beating her regularly. Edit, he was beating my sister, not the dog. Animals can sense intent. In this case danger. We had a dog that was super uneasy around my mom's husband. Always barking, never seemed to warm up to him no matter how hard he tried. He's a nice enough guy, just strange I guess. And then he had a stroke. Ever since then my dog loves him. The second he comes over he is in his lap. So strange. Freshman year of college, a friend and I were driving across town and he stopped for gas. It wasn't a dangerous part of town or anything, just a quiet gas station with an old Buick out front. But this feeling came over me that we needed to get out of there. I tried to shake the feeling by making a joke. This feels like somewhere an ex-murderer would hide out. My friend immediately gunned it out of there without filling up. He said he had the same feeling and me bringing it up too scared the shit out of him. On the way home there were about 20 police cars outside. It turns out some guy shot 2 people in a carjacking and robbery. The Buick was the car he stole. Taking the question literally, when I realized that my appendix was about to burst and went to the hospital. Can I ask how you can tell? My appendix bursting is a fear I have since I have constant abdominal pain and I'm worried I'll mistake it for that and ignore it. Edit to add, I just wanted to say thank you everyone who answered my question. I was asking because I'm currently going through chemo and so I'm in pain constantly, and it scares me that I may not be able to tell the difference between that pain and my appendix. But I'm just being a worrywart. Thank you again everyone. So, been down this road. From what I recall, it was 13 years ago. It was the most painful feeling I had ever had in my life. No matter how much or how little food I ate, I would immediately throw it up. Even a sip of water would make me throw up. In the hospital, when the doctor would press on my abdomen, the pain would radiate out from where they were pressing. After that, it was MRI and immediately into surgery. I was walking home and a woman approached me to ask for directions. I told her how to get where she wanted to go, but she didn't walk that way, but instead walked beside me and kept pace with me. This made me incredibly uncomfortable, so I said have a nice day and doubled my speed, not running, but outpacing her significantly. A moment later, I heard running footsteps. I must have instinctively gripped my purse strap, because I held onto it as she ran by and tried to snatch it. We ended up tussling for a moment. I shouted very loudly, help. She's stealing my purse. Neighbors came outside, causing her to walk away. She did not get my purse. I stopped off at a dollar store to get last-minute stuff for my niece's birthday party, foil or napkins or something. I went to the one I had never been to, in a seedy part of town. There weren't many other people there, since it was a Sunday afternoon. A luxury car pulls up and this gorgeous man gets out and starts trying to catch my eye, like he wanted to ask directions. Dream come true, right? Except my gut started screaming run for no reason. I pretended I didn't see him and got in my car and left. The next morning I see on the news that 3 people were murdered in Charleston. They were all connected to one dude, one of their cars was stolen, and the serial killer was on the loose heading west, through my area. Guess who the suspect was? Yep, the dude I'd seen. They arrested him after he'd kidnapped a girl in Augusta the same night I saw him, and she managed to escape. Still gives me goosebumps. What if I'd stopped and talked to him? Could you find a news story about this? I'd like to read more. I've been searching for it, actually, to be sure I remembered correctly. This was like 15 years ago, so I'm coming up empty so far. I'll post it soon as I find it. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe.